Pre-market info.
And I'm Dennis Dick with pre-market info. And who else is there this morning? Brent, we got you.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
What's going on
You
here? What's
know,
happening?
I had a great weekend, if anybody cares.
Joel,
Uh,
how was your weekend?
Well, I got the number one priority out of the way. I got the lawn furniture in, and that was good news before the big windstorm. So I'm happy about that.
That's great timing. It was
Yeah,
super windy here.
yeah, and I even got a little assistance from the wife on doing that, so that was good. And have I ever told you guys about the silent auction slide?
I don't think
silent
so.
auction slide.
Nope. Yeah, I'm confused.
Okay, well, in the past I've been known to go to silent auctions and have a few pops and end up with much more things than I really need. Lisa got really mad at me this one time when I won Botox.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I was a high
what
bidder
happened
on
with the
Botox.
Botox?
You
Did
know,
you
I'm a,
use the Botox?
No, I did not. I gave it away. And what I had to do, at these charity events, I like to bid the prices up of stuff. Stuff that I think is like really good value, and I like to help these charity events out. And sometimes I get stuck with a lot of stuff, and it's not pretty. But last night I was at a function for the ADL Anti Definition League, and they were auctioning off some art. And this really nice art picture of Albert Einstein, one of my favorite scientists. And this guy was hawking me. He was going back and forth, and bid it up. And we set a limit we were going to pay. And so I was following the lady that was picking up the clipboards, and she went, and I was in second place. She went to pick up the clipboard, okay? So the other guy got it. I grabbed the clipboard out of her hand. I bid $50 more, and I got the
Wow, you
picture.
get violent. You get crazy at these things. Aggressive, eh, Joel? Must be the
Yeah.
trader in you.
Yep.
You just
Use a
can't
special
help
order
yourself.
type there to get that bid in, or how's that
Yeah,
work?
he's using special order types. The order types of taking her away from her and stepping in with the bid at the last second before it closes.
And then
That's what
the guy that I beat out, you should see him scrambling, going to buy something else. He was so bummed. But you guys got to remember that it's called the silent auction slide.
I would have had
silent
no
Wow.
idea about this,
It's
about
not like
you,
the hide and
Joel.
slide order type. It's the auction
My eyes have
slide
been
order
opened.
type.
But anyways, what's going on in the markets today, Dennis? You bidding up
It's just,
those?
but it's the same thing every day. The steady grind north. We come in every day. Every time we start the show here, S&P futures seem to be up 2 or 3 points. Crude's always down 40 cents, and gold's kind of just hanging out. And that's exactly what's happening here this morning. I sense a pattern forming, especially in that crude, which we'll get to in a second, because it's always down 40 cents at 8 a.m. That's like 7 of the last 8 days in a row when we started the show. Crude's down 40 cents, but S&P futures, kind of an okay range, 7 point range overnight. We got up to 1797 and a half. We've been as low as 1790 and a quarter. We're trading just off the highs right now at 1795.75, which moves us up to a new high.
Yep, took out that all-time high in the pre-market. Friday's high, all-time high, 96, 1796. Got to 97.50 in the pre-market. On the downside, I mean, you just have to look. Got below 1791 and a quarter. That was our swing number. We're still 6 points away from the pre-market low, 1790 and a quarter. And if the pattern holds true, we just have not been either taking out the pre-market low that's been holding up, or just going through it a little bit. So that's your support. That's what you're leading on the downside.
And the crude, like we said, is trading down. Well, it's only down 32 cents now here. So was down 40 cents when we just started a few minutes ago. Like we said, it seems like it's down 40 cents every day when we start the show at 8 o'clock. What is the crude technical saying? I know you were saying, oh, it's starting to find some support here. Are you still seeing that support, or have we been hanging out here too long?
We have the old triple close formation in the crude oil here.
The
Yep.
triple close formation. Tell
Yep.
us about that.
You got three closes within, basic. Well, it's a double close. You got 94.50 area. You got above it a little bit. on Friday, but we're coming back. We're keeping an eye on the low of the move here in the contracts. They're switching contracts on me.
Yeah, on the Jan now.
Yeah, that kind of messes me up a little bit. But 93.16 is the low of the move. We've snuck under the $94 level, 93.93 low. So if you're trying this first swing trade using that 93.16, that's really the only reference that you have on the downside. And then gold getting a lot of resistance at the 1390 level. That held up again in the early morning trading here. Only got to 89.20. I don't think
Yeah,
gold's going.
1290. I'll correct you on the handles again.
Yeah, what's the handle? But
What's
you had
100 points there?
yeah. Friday's high 1290.80. Thursday's high 1293.80. Stalled at 1289.20 this morning. So major resistance there in gold at 1290, and you really don't find major support until you get in the lower 1260s, 1265 and 1260 and a half.
Lots of stocks trading at or near all-time highs, obviously with the market up at highs. But let's start with ExxonMobil here because it hit a new high, at least for the year there on Friday, and it was moving higher. We said how in the pre-market it was trading up. It actually opened quite a bit lower than it was trading the entire pre-market on Friday. It was trading up to the 95 handle, opened low at 94.15. You had a lot of stocks on Friday. It was the triple witch thing going on in the options expiration, and actually a lot of stocks, must have been some huge institutional selling pressure off the hop because you had a lot of stocks open pretty low relative to fair value, and then they just ran. And ExxonMobil was no exception, open near the low and just ran all day, and it is running and continuing here this morning, up another 40 cents, trading now 95.69.
Did you get that ExxonMobil?
No, you know what? I'm not aggressive enough sometimes with the orders there. I had an order to buy this thing at 94.10. Opening only orders, which means I wanted the opening print. It's called an OPG order. I thought it was opening too low. It looked like it was going to open at 94. It was indicated. I've got the the indications to open 94. I was like, oh, I want that. So I bid 94.10. Of course, the DMM on the floor, designated market maker, opens at 5 cents above where I was bidding, 94.15. It comes in at 94.03. So if I had just a normal 94.10 order, maybe I get filled. But I had an opening only order, so it cancels after the opening print. Which and then the stock just ran. So I was very disappointed that I did not get long ExxonMobil.
Just getting the Warren boost here after revealing his position in it. They took off in the pre-market or the after hours on Thursday, continued on Friday. Getting a little overdone here, though. We did make a new all-time high in ExxonMobil in the pre-market trading. The former all-time high in ExxonMobil is in the 96 handle. Let me get that exact number for you. I got a 96.12 high back in April of 2012. We got up to 96.50 in the pre-market. Hit that level. Someone made a stand there. Now we're pulling back to 95.61. I guess you need to use Friday's low or Friday's close and high, 95.27 and 29, as a support level instead of resistance.
Yeah, this whole 90. If you go back even to 2008, I'm just looking. 2007, 2008, we had multiple highs up here in the 95, 96 area. And I think you're meaning in May, I have the high actually May 2008, 96.12. So back to 08 here looking. But 07, 06, there's all kinds of highs back in 2007, 2008, up here in this 95, 90, or up in 96 area. So looking at it here, we've come all the way back, obviously, from the financial crisis, and we're back up to where we were trading prior to the financial crisis. Can we continue this momentum, and can we eventually see triple digits on XOM?
I mean, it's really been sleeping lately. I mean, now with this Warren boost here, continuation, the market doesn't seem to be pulling back. I mean, maybe it's time to hop on this thing, and then you're also getting a good dividend on it. So, I mean, it might not be it might not be too late to buy this issue. And the other stock I think people should take a look at in the same sector, it's kind of been sleeping a little bit. Is CVX is just quiet ranges here, bunching up near the all-time highs. So keep an eye on that. I mean, major support coming in the 119 area. Actually, I think you got three lows between 119.13 and 119.32, trading up in the pre-market. Looks like it's building just another little base here. Once this thing goes through 122, Dennis, I wouldn't want to be short with your money.
Yeah, and you got ExxonMobil trading up near all-time highs, and there's a lot of people that like to pair these two together. It's been a laggard, that's for sure, here on Chevron. It'll be interesting to see if it can get some momentum here, especially with ExxonMobil approaching all-time highs. Let's look here at Procter and Gamble. It's making new highs here as well this morning. Well, actually, it made new highs and closed near all-time highs. Got up to 84.92 on Friday, closed at 84.84. Big guy at the point. We always know these whole numbers come into play, especially when they haven't been there before. And this is an all-time high for Procter and Gamble. $85. I see over 180,000 shares there. But you know what's getting a run and started at, and they've been chewing through that size lately because there was a big seller at 84 just a couple days ago, and they chewed through him. So you think they chew through this 85 guy too?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I knew you were leaning on that 84 and a half guy. I believe it was on Thursday. And
Hmm.
did you have any luck with that? Did you get to cover that in the pre-market? Because I noticed it opened it right at that level and busted right. It was at 83 and a half, I believe.
Yeah, it was at 83.5, and I actually did get covered on the opening print because it was trading a little higher in the pre-market. I was like, they want to press this through there, so you know what I should do in that case? I should reverse it and actually cover the short and get long. But I covered the short to basically scratch out, and silly me, after all these years of trading, I should have reversed and bought more, and I didn't do it, and obviously it would have been a great trade. But that's what I'm keeping an eye on here this morning too. If they can take this $85 guy out, then maybe it starts to move here again. But off the bat, probably run into a little bit of opportunistic traders leaning on that size. Obviously, the high frequency guys like to lean on the size as well, especially when it's displayed in the book like that. So there's a little stock to chew through there.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Also, the close, people will be keeping an eye on the mark there, 84, 84, the all-time high. If this starts to go into reversal, you got a little bit of support at 84.65, but things open up really under that 84.65. Really, the only support level you have after that is Friday's low at 84.16, but doesn't look like it's going that way anyway in off the hop.
General Electric breaking out on Friday to a multi-year high as well. Not all-time highs because it was up in the 60s if we go back into 2000 and I think 2003, way back in the day. But this is a 4-year high, I believe, for General Electric trading, and it's trading up here another 20 cents this morning. 27.40 right now, is running into some size trouble here again. See over 100,000 shares at 27.44, which is an interesting number. And then I see more size backing that up at 27.50. So it's going to struggle a bit here in the 40s, I think, off the bat.
Right, whole number or half whole number,
The
like 27.
27.44 is an interesting one, though. Somebody's like, I'm going to stick it out a little bit ahead of the whole half number there. Because you don't usually see big size like that at a weird number like that at 27.44. It's usually at like half and whole numbers because the option strikes.
Right, I hit 27.43 on Friday, backed off the close at 27.20. So we'll keep an eye in the pre-market. We did get a print up over that 27.40 level, up to 27.43. So we'll keep an eye on that size. Coming back on the downside, we're 20 cents away from the close. So that should be your support level.
Got Boeing flying up to new all-time highs here again this morning. It's up another $3 here. They're considering alternate locations for construction of 77X. Getting what else is happening in Boeing? Does anybody else have something?
Yeah, well, there's the Dubai Air Show that was picked up. I know CNBC was doing a quick little piece on that a little while ago, but that just completed over the weekend, and Boeing managed to land major contracts with just about every major
There we go.
Middle Eastern airliner for the 777. And I guess they were fighting with Airbus over those, and basically Boeing won all of them over Airbus. So I think that's what traders are really paying attention to this morning.
And it's up on 73,000 shares here. And wow, what are you saying on that one, Joel?
All I can say is 141.10. That was a print that you had about 7 a.m. this morning. So that's the all-time high. Keep an eye on that. We've pulled off $2 from there. Not a lot of volume traded, but keep an eye on the 141.10 pre-market all-time high in shares of Boeing.
Couple earnings stocks here to talk about. We can start with Jinko Solar, JKS. Is this numbers right? $1.36 versus 45, or was there like a one-time gain in there? Because that's blowing. I mean, blowing the earnings away. 320 million versus 302 million on the revenue. So big top line beat, big bottom line beat. Was there any one-time items and charges or like
The
one-time
gap
gains in
number
there?
that I see was 72. cents.
So still 72 cents. So okay,
But
so
I
you're
mean, yeah,
going.
I mean it's
That's
still,
still blowing the number away
huge.
because estimates
Yep.
are up 45 cents. So, and the stock is your leader here this morning. I believe it's up more than anything else on the exchange. Well, it's one of the leaders anyway. It's up 9.46% right now, trading at 32.29. Went out at 29.50. So huge gains here for JKS.
Looks like the analyst just might have missed something on this one, which tends to happen.
30,
Wow.
32.80 pre-market high after hitting at 32.80. Had a little pullback to 31.60, but now hanging firmly in the 32 handle at 32.35. These stocks in the sector maybe have given you a little heads up in this because they have been moving ahead on good earnings as well. Taking a look at the daily charts, we're busting over that high that you had on Thursday at 30.35. Let's go a little bit longer term, boy, on the weekly and the monthly here. You
All-time
need to.
highs.
No, it's not all-time highs. This was part of the craziness that you had back in 2011 when these stocks got
Oh,
got way overdone. But next resistance point I'm seeing. Just keep an eye on 32.21. That was a high in February of 2011, and then also you had a high at the 31.85 area. So I like to see it hold. If this is going to be one of those gap and go scenarios, I think you have to hold 32 here off the hop and get into these uncharted waters above 32, 32.80 pre-market high.
this thing was trading down to 30 cents, or I got down to 4 cents. Is that right? Back in like the beginning of 2012, you have it that low on the chart,
Um,
or did I miss a split on my chart that didn't adjust for? Because that's showing 4 cents.
yeah, might have had some kind of split here. My charts are showing $2.
$2. Okay, so regardless, this thing has been up basically 1,000% here in the last year and a half. So it's quite the run here for JKS. A lot of these solar stocks, like we've been saying, they have been probably your strongest sector, at least in the last few months here, and they're just continuing to show strength. Don't know when that's going to get derailed, but right now they're just looking higher. Tyson Foods also reported earnings here this morning, 70 cents versus 69 cents. Revenue in line, 8.89 billion versus 8.89 billion. Stock trading up $1.10 here in the pre-market, 29.80 after closing at 28.77.
Maybe this is gearing up for a big Thanksgiving or something. You know, people got some extra cash here, and they're going to be
There's
buying,
some turkeys.
yeah, extra big turkeys and chickens and whatever else you buy for Thanksgiving here. But you can't celebrate. Your Thanksgiving's already over, Dennis.
I celebrate two Thanksgivings.
30
Border
point,
city. I'm
yeah,
allowed to do two.
30.01 pre-market high. We've backed off a little bit to that 29.80 level. I mean, this stock does trade some decent volume. Did run into some problems here at 30. If you go back to October, not going very far back, you had resistance at that $30 level. We'll see if we can bust out through there and get into new territory, perhaps 30 and a half. But $30 level should be important. Is there anything in the book there that would keep a clamp off this? Maybe
I
perhaps
don't see anything right now, and I was looking because you think of a big number like $30, especially when it got back in October. It got up to 29.88, and then it was up at 29.90. So it's been up there a couple of times and couldn't quite take it out. So I'm not sure if there's something hidden maybe selling at 30. So, but it has run into resistance in this area a few times in the past, but I don't see anything in the book.
is this moving any of the other food stocks?
I don't think so, actually, and well, at least not. And a lot of those food stocks, the problem is they don't trade this early. Like you get like a Dean's Foods, DF. So a lot of times, these food stocks just don't trade that actively. It could have a little bit of a sympathy move here, but a stock like Dean's, they already reported they were disappointing earnings, so it's hard to get a lift off of a company that just reported good earnings because you already reported. I think like 5 days ago we got a
Right.
report from Dean's and they disappointed. So. And we are coming out of earnings season too, so a lot of stocks have already reported. Lots of ratings changes to talk about here this morning. I want to start with Twitter though first. This isn't a ratings change, but Wunderlich initiating it with a sell rating, putting a price target of $34 on the stock. Anybody have details on why Wunderlich thinks this is a sell, Twitter?
Yeah, I haven't fully dove into that report. I'm actually Microsoft right now. I will take a look real quick.
Okay, we'll get Jake that takes a look at that. But we are trading down here 30 cents, 43.59 we just ticked to. So it's not down huge on this. It's not a downgrade, but this price initiated coverage with a sell rating. What's your thoughts here, Joel? Is Joel
We
there?
we did that special report on Friday, and Twitter was getting back over the $45 level. It was trading over that in the pre-market, and we talked about the significance. A couple things about the $45 level. First of all, the opening price on the IPO day was 45.10. Closed that day out at 44.90. So a lot of people are marked at that position. Also, we talked about the overzealousness got about over the $50 level, got the 50.09 on their first day of trading, and then you had the sell off under $40 to 39.40. Then, as we so commonly talk about on this show, the old 50% retracement. Well, the 50% retracement of that move came in at 44.70, and we had a 44.69 close on Thursday, just identifying this whole $45 area. And it ended up holding up, only got to 45.27 in trading, sold off to 43.43. So that's going to be your support there, minor support below that 42.24. But I will not become a bull in Twitter until you get a couple closes. I know we talked about this on Friday, but that $45 level is huge.
Yeah, and I agree with you without much significance that you just talked about
Yeah.
it, and it appears to be showing up in the charts too. Jakey, what do you got?
Yeah, I took a look at the report. I mean, it's nothing too bearish, to be quite honest. The report actually seemed to be pretty positive on the company. They kind of the Wonderlic outlined that the Twitter's app is built for mobile. It's a great way to tap into mobile and TV growth. Essentially, they say their user growth looks strong. Basically, it's a valuation call. They said their DCF model showed that it was worth $34 a share. So they're saying that they wouldn't buy it until down there. Obviously, when you're at $44 almost a share, they're going to be putting a sell on it. But I mean, if you read into the comments, it's not really that bearish. So I don't really know if this is going to move it because I mean, how much sell side pressure is it going to take it down to $34? I mean, I don't know. Should be interesting to see.
And Wonderlic doesn't hold a big stick. It's not like a Goldman Sachs or something coming out and saying this. But same time, it is moving down here 40 cents in the pre-market, so it's getting a little bit of pressure on it here. But I think I agree. I don't think this is going to turn around at all. Wonderlic's got to sell already. We got to sell our stock today. I don't think the mentality is going to be there to do that with it. But I do agree that $45 area just seems to be resistance here for the stock.
Going and just comparing this to the whole, Facebook IPO debacle and whatnot, it's surely not having the characteristics of what you saw in the Facebook IPO, where 38 was the number. At least that's where it was priced out. They got it above there. It held up for one day. It held up for one day, and then it caromed. Now. You had the 45.10 open, you've gotten a 39.40, so you're not getting, if you're going to try this on a swing trade and trying to pick a bottom here, then you can lean on that 39.40, but it's certainly not having the Facebook IPO characteristics.
Yeah, and the big difference there is obviously the IPO price was much lower than where the stock eventually did open. In the case of Facebook, the IPO price was basically right near where it opened, and by day two was trading under where it had that IPO price. So everybody that got a piece of it, ahead of time, obviously was underwater after one day, and then they start panicking and selling and running over each other and trying to get out, and that's what happens here. And in the Twitter case, it's a little different story. Anybody who did get a piece, and I don't think there was a lot of people who got a piece of it, but anybody that did is still sitting on enormous gains from, what was it, $26? Is that what it was, Joel?
Correct.
The IPO? Yeah,
Yep.
so you're still sitting on huge gains here, so everybody's pretty comfortable. So this is no panic here in the case of Twitter here, probably for those reasons as well. Microsoft downgraded at Bank of America here today. Shaky Jakey's got the report.
Yep. I mean, that one's they're just focusing entirely on the CEO transition here. I've got the report in front of me right now. Essentially, they said that there's a 10% upside if Mullally comes to the company, and it would actually bring another dollar of EPS synergies they're expecting. But if there's an internal candidate, they're saying there's going to be a 10% downside. I think they're just saying that the company's pretty highly valued right now in the market, and then with this, they're saying there's obviously a chance for Mullally to come to the company from Ford, but I think they're kind of looking at it as more of an outside option, maybe a 25-30% shot. And when they're looking at the internal candidate being worth a 10% downside, looks like that's where they're kind of really pulling their downgrade from.
Stock is trading down significantly here, though, on this, down 59 cents right now at 37 and a quarter, which is 1.5%. That's significant for a stock like Microsoft.
Right. Still been trying to fill the gap from the earnings pop that you had. Looking at Microsoft, you did hit a 37.17 low in the pre-market. You're just holding above right that at 37 and a quarter. Taking a look at the daily charts, I mean, when they blew away earnings, you still got a gap to fill in the issue. You had a high of 36.71, the lowest that you've traded in order to fill the gap. You've gotten down to 36.90, I believe. So that 36.90 down to that 36.71, that would fill the gap. I'm sure some people are waiting to get some stock back in that area. Once you break below that 36.71 level, you got quite a bit of air going down to the lower 36s. But it'll be interesting to see if they could get it through that 36.90 level. I'm sure the people that have been trading the range here over the last 7-8 sessions between 37 and 38, shorter term traders will be using this opportunity as it gets near 37 to cover some shorts.
And we always talk about how much ratings change will move a stock, and it depends on who it is. Bank of America carries a very heavy stick, but Microsoft is a very thick stock, and a 60-cent move off a downgrade looks to me like that's pricing in a lot for Microsoft. So I don't know how much gas this thing really has. Maybe we can get down past the 37 area today, but I think this is kind of looks like it's priced in pretty good, this downgrade here to me. NVIDIA also getting downgraded at Morgan Stanley, and they carry obviously a big stick as well. Trading down 25 cents here right now, down 1.5% at 15.92. Went out at 16.17. So NVDA under some pressure after making a new high on Friday.
Right, yeah, trading down in the pre-market, you did get under 15.80, made a low in the pre-market at 15.71, getting a little bounce, not a ton of volume, under 20,000 shares here. Made a nice high on Thursday and Friday, 16.30, 16.32. That's a double top, so if it goes into rally mode, keep an eye on that. That's the highest the stock has traded in several weeks. Coming back on the downside, you did have good support building at the $16 level. 16.01 was Friday's low, so doesn't have far to fill the gap. Gets back above 16, you could roll back up towards those highs. Coming back on the downside, looks like a couple lows right around the 15.50 area, so that should be good support. But just had a big move from under 14.60 up to 16.30, maybe taking a little breather here off the downgrade.
A couple of highlights from that report. The analyst did slap the sell equivalent rating and set a $13 price target. In that note, the Morgan Stanley analyst Joseph Moore saying the stock seems to be pricing in substantial earnings improvement, which is still uncertain. Taking a bit of some of the parts analysis, says net cash around $5.15. They value the Intel royalty payment at just 78 cents. And so the balance of the business has an enterprise value of around $10 per share, and the analyst saying that that part of the business only generates 42 cents in earnings for 2014. So definitely a bit of concern from that Morgan Stanley analyst.
Also, VSI, which is Vitamin Shop, getting added to the conviction buy list at Goldman Sachs, and they carry a lot of weight. 53.45 it's bid at right now. It has not traded here in the pre-market VSI, but it's bid up over $1, and that would put it at a new high on the year, where the old high, I believe, is 53.05.
Let's see here. The stock Vitamin Shops here. What did they slap it on? What kind of rating?
They put it on the conviction buy list. So Goldman Sachs has the conviction sell list, conviction buy list.
That's pretty much the premier list that you can be on as far as sell side. I'm pretty sure.
That's
The
where
conviction
everybody
buy.
wants to
Yep.
be. Everybody
Yep,
wants
for
to be
sure.
on the Goldman Sachs conviction buy list. And this is going to break the stock out here. You've had 3 days of consolidation right under that high, the spike higher that we had back on November the 5th when we got up to 53.04. We came back, consolidated above 50, but we've been kind of grinding up. And for 3 days, we've just been hanging out right under there. I know Joel loves it when you see that consolidation. All of a sudden, you start getting a breakout.
And where's it bid in the
It's
pre-market?
bid 53.45 and nobody's touching them. I looked at this bid probably 20 minutes ago. Nobody's hitting them. The best offer is up at 57.05. So I'm kind of gathering it's probably going to open well above 53.45. This thing could open in the 54 or possibly, I don't know if it's going to 55 handle, but I think it could open in the 54 handle.
53.86 is the one level I can identify for the traders, and that's going back to March of this year. You had a
Oh,
50,
was
yeah, 53.86 high back in March, and sold off, built a nice base at the $40 level. So that's the only thing to keep an eye on. The going the week before, I don't know what kind of news it had back in the first week of March. Maybe we can get back and identify it because it went from 65 to 50. So that's a whole big vacuum area. I don't know if that was earnings or company specific news, but 53.86 is the level that I'm keeping an eye on in vitamin shops.
Also, Goldman Sachs downgrading SVU Super Value to a sell rating. So that's putting pressure on the stock this morning. Just trade at $6.65. It closed at $6.88. What are you thinking on this one?
I was building a base at the 650 level. Let's look at this from Friday's. I mean, you got to respect that support at 650 here.
Mm-hmm.
Had multiple lows: 650, 658, 656. So I don't know. We'll see. We're 15 cents away from that. Obviously, if you take out the 650 level, yeah, you got minor support at like 620, but you could be getting down to the $6 level. And now trading down 23 cents here in the pre-market. You can use the low from Friday, 681, as well as the close. Might not get it, might not see it today, but over the next few days, if you're looking to wiggle out on this thing in a rally, you should get some good resistance in the 680 handle.
And the Citigroup analysts, holy cow, upgrades and downgrades all over the place from Citigroup. They are downgrading NUE. They are downgrading CMC, which is commercial metals. They are downgrading Walter Energy, WLT. They are downgrading Console Energy, CNX. And they're upgrading Gold Corp. So all of a sudden, Citigroup getting concerned here. They're upgrading gold, downgrading energy, downgrading steel. Are they predicting that this market rally might start to peter out here? Anybody know anything about the Citigroup moves?
To be fair, I mean, I think your overall look there is solid, but keep in mind they also put Google at a buy, saying that's one of their top calls. So if they're getting defensive, why would they be upgrading a big tech
Google.
like that? Especially with Google over $1,000, or with it trading so high right now. I mean, that doesn't seem like the kind of call you would be making if you're really worried about the market as a whole, right?
Yeah, that's counter to what we're thinking here, obviously, with
But
the steel
in
and
general,
energy.
in general, like as far as the industrials go there and the energy, that makes total sense. At least that's what their macro call is saying.
The guy's got to find something else to do on the weekends, instead
I know,
of.
he's like, I'm gonna just go nuts here on upgrades and downgrades here, and yeah. So I'll start with NUE here because the stock's actually been on a pretty good run. 53.61. I hold this in my investment portfolio. It's not a trade, but I've had this in my investment portfolio for a while, and it has been on a good run. We started the year, we were down on NUE, trading down, I believe, around $40. It's up at 53.61 now. Big steel company actually has been performing pretty well, but Citigroup not liking it.
Right, no trades here in the pre-markets. Had a nice run off the $52 level, so I think, Dennis, you're safe on the long side here in your portfolio as long as you hold the 52. They had 52.03, 52.08 lows on Wednesday and Thursday. Coming back on the upside here with the downgrade. Might find a little resistance here at 53.81. That was Friday's high, but above that 53.81, you need to get back into the 54 handle to find resistance in this one. So not a big follow through in the pre-market off the downgrade.
The commercial metal CMC, not really any trades here as well, is offered at 18.87. closed at 19.11, so that would put it down about 25 cents. But again, nobody's sniffing him, so I think it could actually even open lower than that. The best bid's down at 17.56. I don't think there's no way in hell that it opens that low. So probably somewhere in the 18 handle, this thing's going to probably find a home.
Right, commercial metals here has had a nice run. Not a huge moving stock. Finding big resistance in the 19 handle, 1909, 1912, 1918. Not getting knocked down now, but still sellers in the 19 handle coming back on the downside here. 1855 was your low on Wednesday, so we'll keep an eye on that as support. But had a nice run here, getting some consolidation to keep the move going on the upside. I'd like to see it get above 19 today and close again there for the third consecutive day.
You're going to like this WLT chart here because it's been hanging out and making multiple bottoms right around 1680, and it's trading 1679 this morning. It's trying to take out those multiple lows. It actually did. It's traded lower than that here in the pre-market. 1679 it just ticked to, but it's offered 1677. So here's a stock that looks like it could actually break down through a significant support area.
Isn't this stock like always in the news or something? It seems
Walter?
like, yeah, it seems like it's a newsy stock. Like everyone's taking it over, then it gets a spike, and then it's denied. But you are finding huge support here at that 1675, 1680 level. Looking at the pre-market low is 1658. I still have to use this area as support until you take out that pre-market low. Then below that, you have major support down at the $16 level. Had a low at 1581 back on
Yeah.
November 1st, but I don't know. I mean, is that big a news to just to take it through the support level? You think those buyers are still going to be there?
No, I think it's going to go through the support level here today. It's offered at 1677. We've had multiple trades down at 1664. We just traded a bunch. I was looking at the trades. 1665, 1660, like you said, a low at 1650. I think it actually is going to take out the support here today. So here's a case where you got a technical breakdown on something, obviously the catalyst being the downgrade, but, it might be a nice play there because there isn't a lot of support below. So this could start cascading through the 16 handle. I don't think that we would fall to 16 bucks. That'd be an insane move. Because you look on a percentage basis. If you think it could get a 2 or 3% move, maybe it moves down 50 cents tops, which would put it around that 1640, 1650. But I think there's some air there below. Also looking at CNX, which they downgraded here this morning. It's been sitting here just above $35 forever. I don't know if it's going to be able to take it out though, because I actually closed at 35.98, which was a high. It's offered at 35.65, and the best bid's down at 35.10. So here's an instance of where one of those energy stocks might actually open into support.
Right, $35 level held up for a few sessions on Wednesday and Thursday. Made a high 36.47. Kind of skimming along the bottom here. It kind of looks like it had the pullback from the $39 level, and now you're finding support. So it doesn't. I don't know. I don't see a lot of downside here. Coming back on the upside if it really goes into rally mode. We had two highs at 36.68 and 36.72 on November 8th and November 11th. So kind of a sleepy stock.
Okay, you want to see non-sleepy stocks? Bring up Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, FNMA. Let's start with that one here. It has been on an absolute tear here. Just it's trading up here another 10 cents. This is obviously an over-the-counter stock. Trading up another 10 cents here at 340 this morning. What's going on here? Like, does anybody have the stories here on why these stocks have just been running here over the last few days?
Well, if you're looking at it on a technical basis here, you had a real nice run. Well, I got Fannie Mae here. What did you say this symbol
Yeah,
for?
go with that Fannie Mae. Start with one FNMA.
FNMA
You got
here.
it. Got it.
Okay. Oh, yep. Now I don't got it. Well, I remember shorting this thing at $100 and losing money on it. But
Way to zero, and then obviously now they've started to come back from zero here. Like, aren't these like entities basically bankrupt? Like, I mean, why do they come back? That's what I don't understand is when these things get traded over the counter and all of a sudden they have these huge spikes. I mean, it's a liquidity issue too. Sometimes there's just not as much liquidity as on some other stuff, but holy cow, this thing's been on a tear.
3.50 was your high on Friday. Settled at 3.30 3.30. Getting a boost here in the pre-market. Let's see what the high's been in the pre-market. Not much higher than this level. So above this 350, using that as resistance. You had this one spike day, and I can't remember what the news was that got it to have that crazy move up to the $5 level. But keep an eye on 350 here. If it gets above 350, as you can indicate it by the chart here, there's not a lot of resistance in this issue.
And then
So
FM's. Oh yeah, what's that? What do you got,
I
Brad?
was, I was just gonna say on Friday. Remember, this was after the 13Fs were out. Did get a couple of 13D filings from Bill Ackman and Pershing Square showing nearly 10% stakes in Fannie and Freddie. I was trying to remember if you guys had talked about it on the Friday
I
show,
don't
but I
think we did.
believe it was intraday that these filings came out. So you wouldn't have talked about it.
So you think that's the catalyst here? Is that really why we've been running here? Is the Ackman disclosure?
I mean, if you look at it heading into the end of last week, it definitely had run up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to decide if Ackman would have been buying this recently. Maybe, yeah.
Well,
I could
those
maybe
things are
see that.
usually 45 days delayed too. So, like with the reports, he may still be buying it for all we know, though. But whatever reasons, they've come and they're interested in these things now here. And these things can, there's liquidity issues. They're over the counter. They trade a little thinner sometimes, and they're popping here. Bring up the chart of FMCC. Same deal here. It's trading 321 this morning. It just ticked up to, which is up another 4%. Stock's just been running.
Right, 3.24 was your high on Friday. Going back longer term, you had a crazy spike in that thing. I wish I could remember what the news was to set these things up by $5. But if wouldn't it make sense that if Ackman was buying these things, that people would be wanting to sell it?
Yeah, the old fade Ackman trade. That was working for a while here, but
Reminds me of when
uh,
everybody beat up on Whitney Tilson every time he'd make a call. It'd just be like, all right, just go the opposite. It'll work out.
yeah, that was the fade Ackman trade happening. And well, J.C. Penney, he actually sold that at a pretty good price, and it kept coming down, but it's been coming back here lately. Let's talk about J.C. Penney actually for a minute here, because it's trading up another 20 cents here this morning. Stock has just basically turned around here. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Started to get some life, like we were saying. Some of these dogs started barking. J.C. Penney, the biggest dog of them all, has been barking for almost a month here now, since making that low of 624 back on October the 22nd. It's been straight up.
Right, was had a lot of resistance at the 873 to 877 level, and it kind of snuck through there on Thursday, 885, and then pulled back, closed at 869, and then I think Tepper might have had that on one of his filings. I know one of the big guns had picked up that issue, and it got to pop up to 932 on Friday, and settling back. So need to stay above this $9 level.
S&P futures just hanging out here at 1796 here again. We're starting to run a little bit long in the tooth, but what's your thoughts here, S&P futures?
That just keeping an eye here on the pre-market high of 96.50, or excuse me, 97.50. Coincides with Friday's high of 96. So clear that up to the $1,800 level. I'd also look at 1793.50. That would be a mid-range as support, and that also puts you right with the close. So any kind of pullback here to 1793.50, and that will be your support area. We're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to be on with Bob Byrne and Tim Collins, and to talk about their Marketfy product. We'll be right back. Welcome back, traders and investors. This is Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick, and we have Tim Collins and Bob Byrne here of Marketfy Product Retro. So, how you guys doing this morning?
Doing wonderful.
Good, thanks.
Just real quick, Bob, we'll just ask you real first, and then Tom, you can follow. Just give us your education and market background a little bit.
Sure. Graduated St. Ed's University, Austin, Texas, back in 2000. Trading wise, I started trading in college, sophomore, junior year, around 98. Basically, like everyone at that time, I was a NASDAQ scalper pretty much until we went to decimalization, and like everyone else, kind of ditched it. Went over to the New York, started trading, scalping that area. Around 2003, got off the scalping and became a basket trader in the oil and gas sector. Basically, instead of buying one stock at a time, you bought 25. This was really before the ETFs. And '07, early '08, switched over to the indices. And from a trading standpoint, that's about it.
Were you using algorithms to buy the baskets back then, or how were we doing manually?
Well, no. The interesting thing was there weren't many softwares with basket trading capability. So we actually helped design a couple of them.
Oh, cool.
And we would use the chart. So instead of looking at a chart of Schlumberger, my chart was an aggregate of 25 stocks. And so you never actually looked at the stock. I would never look at ESV. I would just look at one chart and buy them all.
So and that's just making up a number, and those were your own charts that you had created? Like, is that kind of how?
I think the original one we used was called, I think, InstaQuote. I think that was the name of it.
Do you remember InstaQuote, Joel? It rings a bell, but I'm trying to.
I think that I use it on eSignal now, but yeah, you can just basically add them all in there, and so you could add 20 stocks, and it'll just group them as one, right? And so instead of a $20 stock, you would be trading a $800 index.
Nice. Then you can just see how the chart works. So that's awesome, actually. And Tom, what's your background there?
There we go with the Tom already. That's all right.
I saw
Somebody's ready for happy hour before we get the opening.
Yeah, we got to go with Tom Collins. We had to throw it out there. Now, Tim Collins.
No, actually, I started trading in college as well, but my trading back in college didn't go quite as hot as Bob's did. Unfortunately, I was only doing it part time, and one thing you learn quickly in this business, if you're not going to do something full time, don't even bother. At least in my view, from an educational standpoint, doesn't mean you can't trade part time. But if you're not willing to put the study and the effort in behind the scenes, then the trading part time is going to be a big loss. But I went to a very small school in Maryland. Back in the 90s and majored in business administration, economics, and sociology. And the only reason I did 3 was when I went to talk to one of the counselors. And I said, well, I'm thinking about this one, and this one. And in the end, what I meant was I was thinking about doing 1. She looked at me and said, well, you can't do 3. And so then it kind of hit my radar. Well, why can't you do 3? Is it against the rules? She's like, no, it's just not possible. So, at that point, it was just a challenge. There was no specific point behind having 3 other than to prove somebody wrong. But I actually went into accounting and worked a bit as a financial analyst. That was a tad bit boring as a financial analyst just because I spent most of my time getting beat up by CEO. So in 99, I switched over to working with individuals on the financial advisory standpoint, which was fun. Unfortunately, kind of crimps on trading and creativity unless you get the right clientele. So 2007, I transferred over and started my own little firm. We ran a couple small hedge funds. And I enjoyed doing that, but that is also a very high stress environment. And right about that time, we had twins, which is also a great deal of work. You can't put in a part-time effort there. So I've been transitioning away from that a little bit more into consulting on hedge funds since I went from scratch and built several up, working with some private companies and consulting with individual traders. And doing trading on my own. And I've been writing with Bob over on Real Money. We started almost together right about the same time. I started a few months after him. So twice a day. He writes once a day. We try to share and our wit and wisdom with the world as best we can. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so you have a Marketfy product there. Why don't you tell us about that unique name and just give us a brief description of that?
You, you know what, Tim? You came up with the name. Go for it. It.
All right. The name of the firm that Bob and I have is Retro Wall Street, and we have Retro Wall Street Trader Chat. The irony in all this is I spent 2 years in speech therapy learning how to pronounce R's and W's in a different format, and I stick them both in the same name. So, irony knows no bounds, that's for sure. But the whole concept was Bob and I have been trading for quite some time, but we've never been New Yorkers. We've never been in Chicago. We've never been in Boston. We've never traded in, the hot areas of finance in the U.S. We haven't been out west either. He's been in his little mountain cabin up there in Utah trying to do his best Yeti impersonation. And I'm down here in Austin, Texas. So we thought about the idea of trying to, bring back the old style of trading, the whole notion of the retro. It's bringing Wall Street back to a time when individuals would actually share and work together. Going back to a time when there was personality, and it wasn't, it wasn't just a computer on a screen. It wasn't just an algorithm. It wasn't just people following other people. Instead, it was people working together. So the whole concept behind Retro Wall Street is just, going back to a time when it was individuals actually working together, looking to help each other, looking to learn from each other, but also having one heck of a good time during the day. We laugh far more than we trade, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So it's a community much more than it is just a tossing out, buy this, sell this, buy this, sell this. That's not us. That's not our style.
No.
When you do come up with the, buy this, sell this, like how are you coming up with the different ideas? Like is it the community coming up with the ideas together type of deal, or like what indicators are you using to do this type of stuff?
There's definitely, we've got people from all walks of life. So we've got people that focus on indices. We've got people that focus on bonds. We've got a lot of newbies in the room as well, learning.
Yeah.
For myself, when I'm looking at a chart, I'm trying to include, in anything that I want to go long, especially, I'm trying to include the big four in indicators. And the big four, I mean, I'm looking at a price, I'm looking at a volume indicator, I'm looking at moving averages, and I'm looking at momentum.
Okay.
Right now in this market, price has far and away been the most important thing. So first and foremost, especially on an intraday, I'm just focused on price. I'm looking at support levels, resistance levels, breakout levels. Volume right now for me, especially on a daily standpoint, is almost been the least important. And this is a big change from the last decade. When we get into a strong trending market like this with QE, volume matters, but on a scale on those four levels, it's actually been the least important. Moving average has been close behind price, and the reason is we're in a trend. So moving averages like your 8 and your 10s or your 13 days are coming up as huge buy points and huge support points. And momentum, I specifically use momentum in my baskets. Now I'll tell you, I know Bob uses some of those indicators, but he's very unique in the fact that he uses volume profiling, which is something I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, like we've been saying for a while on the show, the momentum that this market's had, and it seems like, and I've been trading for 15 years, and it seems like you're going to cycles where you'll find a market that contrarian plays tend to work, and mean reversion tends to work. That's not working here in the last year. What has been working is momentum. So do you guys adjust your style for the type of market you're in as well?
Absolutely. I'll say from the profile standpoint, I mean, it's basically whether you've got a market in a trend or a bracket, right? So a bracket, just think of it as a churning market consolidating, where basically every time we break out, it gets sold. So, right now, I think it was, what was it, the 13th, was it? Last Thursday, I guess, or Wednesday, the market broke higher, and so it broke out of balance. And so you're back in a trend, which is, if you're going to be an intraday trader, you pretty much are just, you're buying pullbacks, or depending on your risk, you're buying a breakout. I think the difference is your activity, right? If the market's trending, less is more. Ideally, you try to get one trade and hold it. If it's a balanced market, where you're getting that back and forth. It's the kind of market where if you get on Twitter, everyone's complaining that it's choppy. That's for a day trader, that can be great because you've got 5, 6, 8 trading opportunities a day.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you guys you follow technical analysis? What methods of technical analysis do you look at? Is it candlesticks, bar charts? Are you looking at multiple time frames?
Um, for myself, I definitely prefer candlesticks. I'm not the encyclopedia when it comes to candlesticks, though. I'm not looking at, shooting stars and dojis and hanging man all the time. I'm not going to focus on inside days or outside days as much as some folks who are just focused on trading candlestick patterns and nothing else. For me, and I know Bob's similar to this, especially intraday, we'll talk about tails. We'll definitely look for buying tails or selling tails, points of support or points of rejection on the buyers or sellers. And
Can you just
that's
describe
big
tails a
one
little
for
bit?
us.
I just want to stop you there. Can you describe that just for our listeners?
Sure,
Here?
sure. So, for instance, if I'm looking intraday, I might be looking at a 1-minute chart or a 5-minute chart. A lot of times, you'll see tails a little more evident on a 5-minute chart. But for instance, on Twitter the other day, we had a run where the stock all of a sudden, fell under 40, and you saw a big push into the high 30s, and everybody on Twitter, ironically, thought it was the end of the world. On the service, not the stock, that is. But what you saw was a quick rejection on the stock, and you saw a sharp rebound.
Yeah.
And what that creates is on a candlestick pattern, there's no body. When you're looking at it, it just looks like a long, thin line with, nothing around the edges. It's a supermodel candlestick, if you will. And we're looking at that for, hey, that's a point of seller rejection where buyers are stepping in. That makes for a fantastic stop level. Hey, if we go back below the low of that wick or that very thin part of the candle, I don't want to be in this trade anymore. But for now, I've got a very well-defined position. I can get long, and I have a point where I know I will stop out of that trade. We go below the bottom of that candle, I am wrong. I need to take my loss. I need to get off this trade.
So you're looking for that reversal there. Like that's what it's really outlining is basically, where the selling pressure is now all of a sudden turned to buying pressure. And you may actually have a few people caught, maybe short this thing, and maybe it could actually reverse and, get some momentum going the other way now. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it's ironic that it doesn't have to be a reversal. It can be a continuation where, especially on a 1-minute chart, and Facebook is infamous for this for me lately, where you have a push higher, say, Facebook goes from 49.50 to 49.70, runs back down to 49.60, and the next candle it's up to 49.80 with the tail going down to 49.70, and still constantly closing at the high of the width of that candle or the measurement. And you're seeing these, 3 times in a row, maybe where it's closing. People refer to it as a hammer pattern, but you're seeing these just long wick after long wick. Meaning every time sellers are trying to step in and buy this or sell this stock down, the bears are trying to step in. We're seeing buyers reject them quicker and push it higher each time. That shows me that, hey, there's a lot of strength in this. These sellers can get no footing. I'm looking at, hey, I'm going to get long that, and I'll go 2 candles back or 3 candles back, and where that low is, we get back below there, then I'm wrong. But until then, I'm just going to keep following this thing all the way up. So for candlesticks, for me, it's much more of an intraday than it is on a daily basis. When I get out to a daily, when I'm looking for a swing trade, something overnight, something multiple days, I'm looking at 30-minute charts or I'm looking at daily charts. When we actually do talk about long-term investments and bring in some fundamental analysis, but when we get out there, we're looking more daily charts, we're looking more weekly charts, we still are looking at the candlesticks, but again, you're bringing more moving averages into play now, you're bringing more momentum into play, and the candlesticks will fade a little bit more into the background.
And what about fundamentals? I mean, you have the earnings, you have different things that are going on with stocks. I mean, how closely do you follow the fundamentals?
It kind of depends, I think, on the time frame. From a short term, my short term day trading, I don't really care about them. None of it's going to matter. beyond the initial reaction. The one thing I will say is I don't hold trades into a few specific 10 a.m. releases. And this has been the case for years. The Chicago PMI, it's the early release one, comes out at, I think, 9:42, and we get it at 9:45. Michigan Sentiment, ISM, I have no idea how they're ever going to react. So I don't hold into them. As far as trading, I just don't really care about those reports all that much. Monthly employment reports, GDP readings, the initial ones, don't hold into those. They just don't have any bearing on short-term trading other than that initial reaction. As far as investing, that's a little different. I mean, I do follow fundamentals there, free cash flow yield, return on invested capital, debt levels, stuff like that. But in general, I'm less concerned about it from a current standpoint and more how it relates to the past 5 or 10 years, right? Like a dividend yield. If you've got a dividend yield of 3%. Everyone wants a dividend now with the interest rates so low. But if it's yielding 3%, and you look at a chart of the dividend yield, and over the past 10 years, it's normally yielded 4.5%, you're probably getting a really crummy buy.
Yeah, that's true too. Just considering how much stuff has run, obviously, as people have fled into those types of vehicles or those types of investments here. And sometimes, obviously, they can get really crowded, and that can get dangerous as well. So I think I agree with you on that being an important piece to look at.
And then by and large, if I need a CFA level 3 to understand something, I have no interest in it because it's not going to help me in trading.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think like the short-term stuff, 100%, like the intraday trading, I don't think fundamentals really have any bearing at all here. I don't know how sometimes if the fundamentals have bearing even in longer trading too, when you see some of these valuations that are coming out here. But
yeah.
But so what's on your radar now, guys? Like what stocks are you looking at?
Well, for the past few months here in the chat room, we've actually been focused on steel, and we're definitely coming off of that look a little bit now. We began, positions in steel back in July, and then in August, I did a segment on Mad Money with Jim Cramer, the Off the Chart segment, focused specifically on steel. That was August 13th, I believe. And at that time, STLD, Steel Dynamics, was the top one on my radar. Secondly was US Steel, and every once in a while, which is the ticker symbol X. And then we'll look at ArcelorMittal. That was more of a dividend put-selling type of play as opposed to an equity ownership type of play, which is where we went on STLD and US Steel. And one of the things when you talk about fundamentals and we actually got into a little bit of those fundamentals. We have a lot of the people, including Yeti, who are willing to learn about fundamentals, even if they're only technical traders for the most part. Was one of the gentlemen is very big into following bonds and debt issuance on companies, and pointed out to us that there had been no movement lower in the U.S. steel debt, even as people on shows like Fast Money were talking about U.S. Steel going under $10 a share. So it was one of those things that we focused in on that. Now we're looking more towards coal, especially in the met space, since it does have a tie into steel. I know there were a few downgrades in coal this morning, and it's a little bit frustrating from a technical standpoint because several of those charts looked like they were forming, nice flag patterns ready to break out here. But coal is definitely still on our radar. I believed it to be a second half story from this year. Probably a little bit, we're a little bit later in the second half than I was hoping for, although the stocks have recovered nicely off their summer lows. I think a lot of people see gold miners and silver miners in the same light. I still believe it's a little bit early. Bob does a lot of great analysis on gold and gold futures, and it's just not at the level that we're comfortable with. He's been buying pot. I've been buying Mosaic, POT, and MOS here lately. From a technical standpoint, they're definitely on the radar for swing trades or slightly longer term trades. And I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't trade either Twitter or Facebook on an intraday scalp standpoint. Those are fantastic vehicles for that. Although I'm not gonna commit to either long term just yet. You got anything different on your radar right now, Bob, than I do?
You mentioned the pot and the moss. I was going to say that. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to figure out why the pot's up almost 3% this morning on 57,000 shares. So they like that now.
Benzinga News team, you guys got that? What's pot? What's happening over there with pot? We'll let those guys hunt that down.
If it closes over, if that thing closes over 33 and a quarter, it looks beautiful.
It's had major consolidation here, obviously, since the big breakdown. We consolidated here in this 32 level. The last 6-7 trading sessions just kind of hanging out there, forming major support there. And yeah, you got to like the breakout there on that.
Yeah,
one
see,
too.
I still like Mosaic better personally on the chart.
It looks better. Mosaic has a better chart.
It's been moving higher. It's obviously been, continuing to move up and gathering momentum. Where potash has kind of just been hanging out here for about 3 months here now. But both have, obviously come back quite a bit from their initial sell-offs there back in July.
Yeah, and don't sleep on IPI, Intrepid Potash, which that's going to be your high beta, your much more aggressive name in the space. But I wouldn't sleep on that one either. This is where we talk about the idea of basket trades, where instead of buying one, you might go in and buy 3 or 4 names all together. That is one though that nobody talks about. Everybody talks about Potash and Mosaic, but IPI Intrepid Potash is also one that I would keep on the radar.
Looks like it's waking up here a little bit. Just going back to the steel and aluminum stocks. Just got to get whatever ones want to ask this. Alcoa. I mean, Dennis and I have been talking about some of the dogs barking at the end of the year. Do you guys follow Alcoa at all, or have any opinion on that?
Begrudgingly so. I think.
I think everybody's begrudgingly when they talk to Alcoa.
Go ahead, Bob. I know you're going to say something.
I think it looks great. I mean, it had obviously the first move off of early October. Yeah. But if you throw up a weekly chart of that thing, and I mean, even if you just use a 10, a 20, a 50-day average, they're all turning higher. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing looks fantastic. Unless this thing, just looking at a weekly chart, if it closes a weekly bar under 850, I suppose I'd probably ditch it and just assume it's going to, die and go back to the bottom again. I mean, it's been worthless since I think since I started trading in the 90s, it seems like. It has. It's always been a joke. I mean, earnings season starts with Alcoa, yet who the heck cares about Alcoa?
There are better alternatives. This one's like taking your sister to the prom. There is just no upside in my opinion. There are better places to go. I mean, fundamentally, what are you looking for fundamentally on this? If you're buying this thing from momentum, there are 100 other names out there from a momentum standpoint I can think to go other than Alcoa. So I'll leave that one to you guys. I have absolutely no interest in wasting my time. And on top of that, the options, which I like to play options, are just horrid in this name. I can't even go and sell some bullish put spreads or puts on this and bring in any attractive premium. So I don't care how attractive your sister is. There's no upside for this one for me.
Okay, so here we are at 1797, new all-time highs again this morning on the S&P futures. What's your year-end outlook here? Do you think this just continues on? The Santa Claus rally starts? Do we just continue to make new highs here? Or is something eventually going to derail this market?
I actually just typed over in the chat screen over here that we were only a couple sticks away from 1800 on the ES futures. Given where we're at right now, you generally don't just blow through a big whole number like 1800 and keep on going. It happened that we had one earlier this year. In general, I think if you just use like a 5 to 10 handle window above or beneath that big round number, depending on which way you're trending, I would assume we get some resistance between 1805 and 1810. From there, some degree of consolidation. I would be surprised if we didn't get a 3 or 4% hit. Everyone assumes we're running up into the end of the year. I see no reason on a profile chart to argue with that. I actually thought the drop that we had on November 7th was the start of a decent correction, and it just got reversed the very next day.
Yeah, did not last.
You can blame QE, you can blame whatever. Who cares? I mean, blaming it's not going to make any money. So for right now, I'll say there's nothing that I see. You've got divergences under the surface, but we've had those for so many times this year, and yet they never amount to anything. 20, 30 handles maybe. But for right now, it looks like if you get a 3-4% correction, I would assume everyone looks to get on board. Still.
Right. Yep. And we talk about it. The trend is your friend. The trend is definitely been up here heading into the end of the year. But potential resistance is hard to find since we've never been in this area before. So we talk about a lot of the stocks here, and I just say, hey, just keep moving those sell stops up, and protect yourself. Let the market take you out on the downside. We're gonna wrap up the interview here with Bob Byrne and Tim Collins of Retro Wall Street. You can check out their product on Marketfy. I believe you guys also going to be part of the Marketfy Summit coming up later in the week. Guys, thanks for coming on and giving us your outlook on the markets and your approach to trading. We appreciate it. We'd like to have you back on again if that's possible.
Hey, thanks, guys. Had a blast.
And
Thanks.
we appreciate you guys having us on. Good luck trading today here, everybody.
Okay, all right. We're gonna switch gears here over to Mighty Joe Young with this morning's headlines.
Heyo, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Bob and Tim, for being on the show today. That was really cool. Yeah, the event that Joel was talking about, Marketfy, is hosting their holiday event this Wednesday and Thursday. Definitely check it out. We have links in our articles, and we can post a link here in the chat on our page, so be aware of that. Moving on to today's headlines, some 80 tornado reports were received among yesterday's storms, along with 358 reports of damaging winds and 40 reports of large hail, according to Rich Thompson, the lead forecaster with the Weather Service's Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. As of this morning, 6 casualties have been confirmed. Salesforce.com introduce an overhauled version of its mobile software, seeking to ensure clients and partners will be able to use more features of the company's sales, marketing, and customer service software. Called Salesforce One, the new software will make it easier for businesses to customize Salesforce.com services for smartphones and tablets, the San Francisco-based company said in a statement Monday. Application developers will also get better tools to tap into the platform. The revamp comes as the largest maker of customer management programs hosts its Dreamforce conference in San Francisco this week and reports fiscal third quarter earnings today. Google's foray into the commercial hardware space has inspired the company to roll out a new marketing effort for the holiday called Winter Wonder Labs. Consumers can visit the temporary installations to try out the latest Google hardware and to experience interactive magic. Inside the Wonder Lab, there are circular igloo-like devices that allow visitors to experience virtual snowfall. On the Wonder Lab site, Google invites visitors to step into the giant snow globe to create amazing slow-motion videos that are yours to keep and share. There's also a text field that says visitors can enter their SnowPass code into a video recorded at a at a Wonder Lab. At the locations, visitors can test out and purchase the Nexus 7 tablet, Google's Chromecast, and its browser-based Chromebook. Currently, there are Wonder Labs in New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Los Angeles, and Sacramento, California. The Lloyds Banking Group said on Monday that it had agreed to sell its asset management arm to Aberdeen Asset Management in stock and cash deal worth up to £660 million or 1.06 billion US dollars. The deal to combine the Lloyds unit called Scottish Widows Investment Partnership with Aberdeen will create Europe's largest publicly traded asset manager. Volkswagen is recalling more than 80,000 vehicles in North America for electrical issues. The German automaker told the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration it is issuing 2 recalls for separate electrical issues, including more than 78,000 2009 to 2011 Tiguan SUVs in the United States and Canada because a fuse may overheat and melt that could cause partial loss of exterior lighting. Lenovo is putting in increased tablet component orders to upstream makers that are expected to remain steady through the fourth quarter of 2013. The company is also aiming to extend its influence in the China market with high-end tablet products in addition to entry-level and mid-range units, and is gearing up for increased demand in markets outside of China that are expected to emerge through the end of 2013. Digitimes research said that the global tablet shipments are expected to reach 289 million units in 2014, up 23.6% year over year. James Murdoch, 21st Century Fox Deputy Chief Operating Officer, has sold about 18.5% of his stake in the media company in a transaction valued at $15 million. The son of 21st Century Fox Chairman and Chief Executive Rupert Murdoch disclosed he sold 455,000 Class A shares at an average price of $32.97 a share. James Murdoch still owns nearly 2 million Class A shares of 21st Century Fox. Spokeswoman Julie Henderson said that Mr. Murdoch's stock sale was for financial planning purposes. The stock sale disclosure comes 10 days after 21st Century Fox reported its fiscal first quarter profits slid 44%, hurt in part by startup costs for 2 cable television channels. Peter Carmanos Jr. is suing CompuWare, the company he co-founded, to recoup stock options that allegedly were withheld when he was fired earlier in 2013 after saying the firm's management needed to get their head out of their buttocks. The lawsuit is the latest rift in a battle involving a business mogul, an international software company, and a soured deal involving stock options that are potentially worth millions. Tech Insights, one of the first companies to take apart the PlayStation 4 console, estimates the cost of Sony of its components at about $296, indicating a gross profit of nearly $100 on the $399 product. That's quite a different picture than the firm painted after Sony came out with the PlayStation 3 in 2006, which then carried a list price of $599. A Tech Insights teardown report at the time estimated the cost to Sony to build the console totaled more than $688, indicating it was losing about $88 per console shipped. The contrast underscores changes in components and their costs, as well as key design decisions Sony made this time around. The asset management industry is pushing back against a powerful yet little-known Treasury Department office that is laying the groundwork for tougher federal regulation of mutual funds and other asset managers. The large firms such as BlackRock, Pacific Investment Management, and Fidelity Investments are blasting a report by the Office of Financial Research that found asset managers could pose risks to the broader financial system. The finding is significant because it is among the criteria of a group of senior U.S. regulators will use to determine whether large asset managers are systematically important and should be drawn in for stricter oversight. And lastly here, police are using nose telescopes to map the smell of cannabis across the city of Denver. Colorado has legalized the drug, but a new law means they can charge people with an environmental offense if their smoking causes an unreasonable smell. Unlawful stinkiness carries a fine of up to $2,000. Police have started using a nasal ranger type of olfactometer, which measures the ratio of smell to clean air to map areas with an offensive smell of marijuana. Fines can be imposed for anything beyond a 7-to-1 clean to smell ratio. So I wonder if that means that they'll be going around finding skunks as well.
Yeah, I think so. Do they have? Isn't that what they have in Futurama? Isn't that his smelloscope?
The smelloscope, that's right. Yeah, to find that giant trash ball moving through space.
So that thing's real now. That's like not just a cartoon. That's a real thing now.
It's a real thing now. I think they actually took the professor's idea.
What an exciting technological world we live in.
I just have my trivia tidbit here. On November 18th, 1978, Billy Joel earned his first #1 album when 52nd Street topped the Billboard pop chart and did so for the next 7 straight weeks, becoming the top-selling album of the year. It also went on to earn Joel his first Album of the Year award at the 22nd Grammy Awards. Thanks, Shubs. When Joel was 16, he played piano on the #1 hit Leader of the Pack for the Shangri-Las. I would also like to add to this tidbit that the previous album, called The Stranger, was Columbia Records' best-selling album up until that point, and because of Billy Joel's management, he only earned $3,000 from record sales.
Wow.
That's right.
That's rough.
So and that is the Benzinga News Desk's favorite Billy Joel album, just so everyone knows out
The
there.
The Stranger? Well,
it's not? I think it is, Joe.
Well, no, I mean, it's definitely my favorite album because...
Mine too.
Scenes at an Italian restaurant. That's what's up, man. Joel would know all about that because he was actually alive when those albums came out.
It's my life, okay?
Oh, honesty. So with that wraps up our headlines for today, and now I'm passing it to Jake the Snake. Take it away, Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Hit you guys with some quick movers this morning. Looks like what's primarily dominating things right now are some analyst ratings. Get things started off with Twitter here. We did have it initiated at a sell at Wunderlich Securities, and that is moving it to the downside. I'm seeing the last trade come in at 43.41 with a low this morning of 43.26, closed around was about 43.88 on Friday. Pretty thin volume, but it is showing a significant or a strong move to the downside. So just keep an eye on that at the open. It could be an interesting one to be trading today. Do have some movement on Boeing as well. The company did really pull out all the stops at the Dubai Air Show over the weekend, making or closing over $100 billion in orders from 342 different companies. This is a lot of these orders were the ones Airbus was going for. So major rival. Not only did they get the orders themselves, but they also deprived a major rival of the orders themselves. We're seeing Boeing trade at above $140 right now. 140.81 is the last trade that I'm seeing. So keep an eye on that one. It's trading up. I guess it's almost 3% now. Wow. So Boeing on the move. Bravo L for the ticker there. Watch that at the open. These are all-time highs. We also have some movement in Microsoft this morning following an analyst rating from Bank of America. They are focusing on the CEO transition plan, trying to kind of do the game theory of whether or not it would be Alan Mulally or someone from inside the company, saying that Alan Mulally presented a 10% upside to the stock, while an internal candidate presented a 10% downside. Looks like they're kind of siding with the internal candidate right now as they put a sell order on the company. It closed at around 37.86 this morning, hitting a low of 37.17. Last trade as I'm seeing is at 37.38, so it looks like it's getting a little bit of a recovery now. Some traders look like they're trying to buy the dips out there, so keep an eye on Microsoft, Mike, Sandy, Foxtrot, Tango. Also have some movement in the solars this morning with Jinko Solar pulling out that strong report. That's Juliet, Kappa, Sandy, JKS, Jinko Solar. That's one of the Chinese solar makers. Close at around 29.55 on Friday, and after beating on the bottom line and the top line and raising its guidance, Jinko's been on a pretty strong rally today. Broke above the $30 level with force. 33.12 is the last trade that I'm seeing with a high of 33.25 this morning. So keep an eye on that one at the open. And just like the solar sector tends to do, we do have other solar names moving along with it, including Canadian Solar, who was shown a lot of strength last week as well. That's Charlie Sandy, India, Quebec. Moving to the upside, I'm seeing a high of 33.50 this morning. Last trade of 32.91. Fairly thin volume on that one. It did close at 31.95 on Friday, so couldn't hold on to a $32 level on Friday, sitting right below that. It's now broken above. Continuing that uptrend in Canadian solar. Moving over to First Solar, the best in breed name for there. Foxtrot, Sandy, Lima, Romeo. This one's ticking a little bit higher, but not a whole lot. Keep in mind, this is more of one of the American solars versus the Chinese solars, so often they move in opposite directions. In this case, they are moving together. I do see it last trade at 64.51, so we might get a little bit of a battle at that $65 level at the open, so keep an eye on that one. Also, as usual, watch the Tango Alpha November. That's a solar ETF. That one has gapped higher in the pre-market. It rarely trades in the pre-market, but today it looks like somebody decided to get in and buy it. Last trade I'm seeing is at 41.80, a big gap above its $40.60 close on Friday. So keep an eye on the TAN today as well. It's been showing some strength recently on the solars moving as well. So that's kind of what we're watching. Do see a little bit of strength in Salesforce as well. That's Charlie Romeo Mike. It has been kind of ticking higher all morning. So we got a close at, what was that, 57.22 on Friday, rallying up there in the post market on Friday, then gapping slightly higher this morning, continuing to rally, bouncing off of 58.63. That's the high there. 58.40 is the last time I'm seeing. Looks like Deutsche Bank reiterated their rating on Salesforce ahead of its third quarter report, so keep an eye on that one. We are expecting to see them today. So big move in Salesforce there, so keep an eye on that at the open. Continuing that trend over the last was about 15 sessions. It's been rallying, so with a few down sessions in between. It's kind of what we're looking at right now, though. I don't know, Brent, if you want to hop in, or Joel, either one of you guys, but that's what we're kind of seeing on the movers. I know most of it's kind of analyst rating fueled, so I'm sure you've got a ton of important headlines for us then.
We got just about. Oh no, is that the opening bell? Did you hear it, Joel?
I didn't hear it yet, but it should be coming up here in a second. I just wanted to take a quick look at Key Corp here, JH3. Want to take a look at this issue. Key Corp just kind of steady moving up. Your bank stock running into some resistance at the $13 level over the last few sessions. I've had some highs over 13, 13 even, 1305, 1310, 1302. Haven't managed to close above that, so let's get a close above 13 here and make a move up for the next resistance level, opening at 1290. We're off to the races here in the S&P futures. 1799 has been your pre-market high, and also hit that during the regular session. Psychological $1,800 level in the S&Ps may pose a little bit of resistance here. Let's see if we can get that in the early going. Let's move on to a couple of stocks that we've covered here, talked about in the pre-market. Twitter, not getting any love from Wonderlic, initiating the stock with not a favorable rating. That stock was challenging the $45 level on Friday. Have fallen off quite a bit. Let's take a look at what it's done in the regular session compared to the pre-market. Had a pre-market low of Twitter at 43.26, getting a little bounce off that, having to hit that level in the regular session. So pre-market low in Twitter, 43.26. If you're keeping an eye on that level from trading, you had a low on Friday at 43.43. So still at support here. If not, we could be looking at the low that you had on Thursday at 42.24. S&P's now a buck and a half off that high there, trading at 97.50, 17.99. It's your all-time high. Pulling back, you will find support at the close, 93.50. Mid-range on this so far we got a 9-point range in the S&P, so mid-range would put you at 1794.50. Nucor got a downgrade this morning. Stock had a nice run up, trading in the red here a little bit. We are looking at the stock trading at Friday's low here. Friday's low in the issue was 53.07. Haven't quite got there yet. 53.19 is the low in the session. So be keeping an eye on that 53.07 Friday's low. See if we can get any follow through on the downside here. ExxonMobil continues to ride the coattails of the Warren Buffetted investment here. Traded quite a bit higher in the pre-market. Actually made a new all-time high in the pre-market above that 96.12 former all-time high. Actually got up to 96.50 in pre-market trading, but now settling down at 96. Not sure if you had an institutional order there, keeping a lid on it, but 96 up to 96.12 should be resistance in the issue.
Hey Joel, check this out. We got S&P 500, 1800. Also have Dow Jones Industrial Average, 16,000. Holy cow!
Yep, where will this rally end? No one knows here, but keeping an eye on that 16,000 level, busting above it now, making a new high, 16.23, coinciding with the $1,800 level in the S&P futures. Microsoft kind of got a downgrade here by Bank America. Speculation on who's going to take over. We need to take a look at this issue in the pre-market. Microsoft did get to 37.17 in the pre-market. Today's session, we have not gotten to that level yet, 37.22. Dennis was a little skeptical about how much downside there was here in the downgrade, and perhaps we got a little bit overdone. Taking a look at the daily chart in here, and Microsoft getting into yesterday's range, we would need to get up to 37.72. That was the low from Friday.
I see crude oil trading lower now, moved from a pre-market high around 94.68 down to 94.40 per barrel just over the last couple of minutes. Crude did bounce from around $94 at around 9 a.m., so a pretty volatile move in crude right here. I don't know if you want to take a look at that chart, Joel.
Just kind of been hanging out here above the low of the move in crude. We had a low last week in the issue under under $94. We got to 93.51, excuse me, 93.16 has been the low of the move, but we are finding support under 94 today. Made a 93 low, getting a nice bounce here. We'll keep an eye on the close from Friday at 95.14. Kind of closed up there near the high, so that's going to be a very good resistance point here in crude. S&P still knocking on the door here of 1800, only a tick away from there. So if that's your long-term target, certainly be using that as an exit here. Looking at some of the issues that are trading in today's market here. Apple still in a consolidation phase here. We will be keeping an eye for a breakout in Apple at Thursdays and Fridays highs 529.09 and 529.28. Still $3 away from there, but got to look at that 529 level as a major resistance if we get up there. Shares of J.C. Penney over the $9 level. Got that breakout on Friday. Currently trading at 9.15 above the close. We will be looking at J.C. Penney. We got up to 9.30 in the session. Got up to 9.32 on Friday. So that's major resistance here for J.C. Penney. Moving on to the Tesla dog here. Struggling to get off the mat here in the 132 handle. Did have multiple lows around the 136, 137 level, but that did not hold up in Friday's trading, and now Tesla is approaching the low of the move here. The current low of the move we hit last week was 132.32. Currently trading just off the low of the day, so if you're looking for a potential short cover or a potential long here, current low of the move in Tesla at 132.32.
Joel, I've been watching shares of Amazon over the last couple sessions, up more than 7% since Wednesday of last week, continuing higher this morning. I got up about 1% on Amazon. Over the 370 level today, that seems to be a bit of a technical area around 370. I don't know how you feel about that though.
The stock that doesn't make any money but continues to rally here. Let's take a look. I believe we are making a new all-time high in shares of Amazon here. Friday's high 372.90. We have busted above that by 40 cents here, getting to 373.39. I would still keep an eye though at that 372.90 level. I'd use that as minor support here. If we fall back, you had the low. If you were trying to buy the close at 369.17, that was the exact low. Just a real quick spike down there. So that the close from Friday 369.17 is also shaping up as the low today in our session at 369.17. S&Ps are missing that 1800 here by one tick, getting up to 99.75. So be keeping an eye on that psychological number. Shares of Twitter getting a bounce off 43.03. Did take out yesterday's low, traded down to 43.03, but getting a bounce here. Let's look at Friday's trading in Twitter, 43.43 low. We are above that. Should get some nice resistance if you can get back up to the close from Friday at 43.98.
I got one that we haven't talked about in a while, Joe.
Okay.
If you're ready, okay, it's BlackBerry. I was gonna have some kind of dramatic drum roll, please, but no, just go with it. BlackBerry.
Blackberry, they call it Deadberry because this stock is just not moving here. I haven't had any kind of news on this thing. Been trading in a tight range here. I would say since going back to November 4th, when you snuck over the $7 level, you got the 708. But since then, just TradeTheRange.com here. 639 was the low, 643 in today's session. So good support at the 640 level and good resistance from 653 to 657. It's going to take someone making a move on that stock or a sell of its assets here in order to get that thing to move. Been very, very, very quiet trading. Taking a look at shares of Procter & Gamble that made a new all-time high on Friday, getting a little bit of follow through today here. 84.88 is a high today's session, but the all-time high is 84.92. Dennis mentioned there were some institutional sellers up at the $85 level, so we'll see if it can challenge that in today's trading. Moving on to some other issues here. General Electric making a multi-year high here, has not traded at the 2750 level. You need to go back to May of 2008 to find that level coming into play. Opened up at 2728 and you're getting a nice rally here. We'll see if any kind of institutional selling here at the 2750 level. Google makes a new all-time high in today's trading session at 1044.85. We are now pulling back a little bit to the former all-time high of 1041.52. Trading right at that level right now, so that should act as minor support. S&Ps now we're off that $1,800 level only by a couple points, reaching 1799.75. Didn't get the momentum there to get that 1800 tick in yet in today's session. Now pulling back, the S&Ps are on the low of the intraday session. Nice little 10-point range so far, including the pre-market low. So your support will start at the 1095 level, down to the close of 1090. Excuse me, of 1793.50. Taking a look at Tesla here, 133.39 low. We're keeping a low on the low of the move in Tesla at 132.32. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as a potential support point. S&P's now pulling off here a little bit in today's session. Currently only trading up 3 points at 96.50. We'll see if the mid-range at 1795 could act as some support here down to the close at 1793.50. Shares of Apple pulling back here, 527.19 high. Let's look at the range from Friday in shares of Apple. You did close at the low, 24.49, 24.99 high. Did get a little pop, but we've taken that low from Friday out. So perhaps if the sell-off in shares of Apple continue here, we'll be looking at Thursday's low at 521.87.
Joe, we got just a couple minutes left in the show. I wanted to give traders a quick preview on some items for the week. After the close today, we will have earnings from both Brocade and Salesforce.com. Tomorrow morning, we'll have earnings from Campbell, from Home Depot, TJX, and also Medtronic. And then later today, we'll have the NAHB Housing Market Index that's coming up at 10 a.m. Tomorrow, we're going to get a reading. Excuse me, this is Wednesday. We're going to get a reading on retail sales, also on CPI. And then on the show tomorrow, we will have the return of Sanglucci. He will be coming back and talking about some of his recent option strategy. We had a really great interview with Sanglucci a couple weeks ago. He liked the show. He said, "Get me back on there, and we will oblige." So, Sanglucci, looking forward to your interview tomorrow. Got just about 30 seconds before 9:45. Hope the show got you traders off to the right start today. Joel, anything to add before we conclude the show?
Just moving up here. Twitter is getting a bounce here, testing the close at 43.98. So we'll see if Twitter can get green on the day. Just closing out with the S&Ps here. We have fallen short here of the 1799.75. Just shy of that 1800 mark in the S&P. So pulling back now, 4 points off that high. So we'll see what happens here when we get down to settlement. Thanks for your input and questions. Have a good trading day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.